All right. Good morning. This is your stats sensei, Mr. Spensei, and our next problem says for our exit ticket says use the above problem and calculate a 95% confidence interval. So what was our above problem? Well, in our warm-up, a publishing company had just published a new college textbook. Before the company decides the price at which this textbook will be sold, it wants to know the average price of similar textbooks in the market. The research department at the company took a random sample of 36 textbooks and a group of over 1,000. The information produced a mean price of $70.50 for this sample with a sample standard deviation of 45.33. Complete the numbered spaces. All right. So we're buying textbooks and we're trying to establish a 95% confidence interval. They told us our sample mean was $70.50. Said we had a sample standard deviation of 45.33, and we had a sample size of 36. We're going to need all of that information. Okay, so let's go ahead and write down our formula and we'll plug in what we know. So our formula is X bar plus or minus T star S divided by the square root of n. So I start plugging in and I go, okay, 70.50 plus or minus. Leave a space for T star because we don't have that yet. We have $45.33 divided by the square root of 36. All right, so we need to calculate T star. T star is a lot more difficult than Z star. So we're going to go first off, we're going to need to know our degrees of freedom. Actually, let's just go to where we have to on the calculator. So we're going to go second vars inverse T, and it asks for area and degrees of freedom. So degrees of freedom, we're going to go ahead and address that as just 36 minus 1. But our area is a little bit more of a work. So inverse T, that's where we went. We always have to go, and I'll put that in brackets. Then we're going to go parenthesis 1 minus, but we wanted 95%. So 1 minus 0.95, close parenthesis, divided by 2, and the degrees of freedom is 36 minus 1, or just 35. All right, you can do either or, and we'll close those brackets. So let's go ahead and do that. So parenthesis 1 minus 0.95. Close the parenthesis, divide by 2. Really important to use the parentheses, otherwise it won't work. Degrees of freedom was just our sample size minus 1, so 36 minus 1. And we can leave it just like that. And we're going to go ahead and make this positive, and we end up getting a 2.0301. So T star is 2.0301. The next thing we need to do is actually calculate our interval. Now, we don't have to multiply and divide all that out. We can calculate our interval by just going to stat test number 8, which is our T interval. Stats needs to be highlighted. And there's my sample mean of 70.5, the sample standard deviation of 45.33, sample size of 36. But I need to change that confidence level to 0.95. I press calculate, and I find that I have an interval of 55.63 to 85.83. So $55.16. That's the lower bound. So the textbook shouldn't be less than $55.16. And on average, the average price should not be higher than $85.83. So on average, the average price is either going to be this low or this, somewhere between this, not lower than $55.16 and not higher than 85. Some textbooks might be lower or higher, but on average, the average is going to be somewhere in between there. So they don't want to be less than this and they don't want to be more than that. All right, use the above problem to calculate a 99% confidence interval. Well, we have the same information. I'm still going to write it down again just because it's really good practice. X bar is 70.50. S, our standard deviation is 45.33. N is 36, and we know that we're working with a t-distribution because the standard deviation came from the sample. Our formula is x bar plus or minus t star s divided by the square root of n. We start plugging in and we have 70.50 plus or minus. And we don't know our t star, so we have to skip it for the time being. We'll have to go back and calculate that. So our standard deviation of the sample divided by the square root of our sample size. All right, so second vars, inverse t. What did that? Oops, that's not what it asked for. Second vars, inverse t. And the first thing it asked for is their area. So we're going to go inverse t because that's where we went. And we went parenthesis 1 minus 0.99 this time divided by 2. And our degrees of freedom it asked for is 36 minus 1. And you could have, if you wanted to, just put 35, and that would have been fine. So here we go. Second vars, inverse t, area, parenthesis, 1 minus 0.99, close parenthesis, divided by 2. Degrees of freedom, 36 minus 1. And we end up getting 2.7238. Always make it positive. All right, so stat, test, t-interval. Sample mean is 70.5, sample standard deviation 4533, N is 36, confidence level of 0.99. And we end up getting $49.92 to a high of $91.07. So this interval is a little bit wider. Why? Our t-star is wider. Why? Our confidence level went up. As your confidence level goes up, and we went up from 95 to 95 to 99, the interval got wider. When we ran it at 90, it was even smaller. So from 90 to 95, it went from 57, 73 to 80, that range, to a little bit lower and a little bit higher. So it's a little bit wider. And then when we went to from 95 to 99, it got a little bit wider. So as your interval increases, or as your confidence level increases, your interval width will increase as well. All right, appreciate you watching. Hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.